So we finished off in the previous video with task number 2, which is getting started. What is Burp Suite? We're gonna keep on moving because we have quite a few tasks in the Burp Suite section. Let's actually have a look at the Junior Penetration Tester one more time. So the Burp Suite is an entire section. We're just starting off with the basics. Then we're gonna go through the repeater, intruder, other modules, and extender. So back on track. Task number 3, getting started, features of Burp community. Not really sure if I should start the box, but it is what it is. Let's also start the machine, and if it does the split screen thing, I'm going to actually do the screen exit split view so that we can view everything better here. Let's just close that one off. Whilst Burp Community has a relatively limited feature set compared to the Professional Edition, it has many superb tools available. These include, so on that premise, I should say that not necessarily even, but for a beginning professional, the Community Edition is sufficient. However, for a professional in cybersecurity, and most specifically in penetration testing, which is what we're talking about here, the community edition might not be sufficient because you would need tools such as intruder with its full capacity, and also the extender, which extends a lot of extensions, so to speak. Those are really important, and you will not find them in the community edition. Now, again, the proxy, the most well-known aspect of Burp Suite, the Burp proxy allows us to intercept and most specifically modify request responses when interacting with web applications. So a proxy is also what Chrome developer tools and also Firefox developer tools give you. Chrome developer tools by itself doesn't let you modify the requests, as far as I know, but Firefox allows you to modify and repeat requests. Repeater, the second most well-known feature. Well, so this room has created by Murland Oracle in his conception. So this is not the definitive categorization, but in this guy's and in this person's conception, and in my conception as well, repeater is the second most important feature. And on the same line, repeater, maybe on third, it would be the history, because I don't use the intercept too much. Instead of using the intercept, so let me start the Burp Suite, just a plain project, and I have the professional edition here. Let's do a temporary project, and let's just start with the defaults so that we have something to talk about. Now, in my situation, the proxy, the HTTP history, is more important than the intercept itself, because I don't usually turn intercept on. I only use intercept when I want to modify requests on the go, but I usually just repeat them via the history thing. Now, intruder, although harshly rate limited in the community edition, intruder allows you to spray an endpoint with requests. This is often used for brute force attacks or to fuzz endpoints. Now, to fuzz, it's not necessarily the best thing, but is readily available. And if you're working in a Windows environment and you don't have any fuzzer installed, I think FUF also goes in Windows, but if you don't have FUF and you want everything all in one place, intruder allows you. I usually use in the majority, in 99% of my web application penetration testing projects, I also use the brute force thing just to test rate limiting and all that jazz. Decoder, though less used than the previously mentioned features, well, I do use the decoder. It still provides a valuable service when transforming data. And I also use the decoding on hand, or like when you're repeating something, for example, when you're sending something to the repeater, you have the option to right click and convert data in your request. So just to see it better, you can convert it into a readable format, then modify it, then reconvert it back, and then send it, which is what I often do. All right, getting back on track. Compare. So let's actually finish with this off. Whilst there are other services available to do the same job, doing this directly within Burp Suite can be very efficient, which is what I say, because you want everything in the same place. Comparer, I do use Comparer in IDOR situations when I want to see, because I don't use Authorize. I don't use Authorize, so it's Authorize and it's not Authorize. Because, so let me actually clear that up. If you go to the extender, look at the BAP store, you have Authorize, not Authorize. So it's Authorize. I don't even have it installed. Regardless, what was I saying? I use a comparing feature when I want to compare the responses from an authenticated situation versus an unauthenticated situation, or more specifically when I want to compare the responses for authentications for two different user roles. Again, this is not something that is unique to Burp Suite, but again, great thing to have on hand. But being able to send very large pieces of data directly into a comparison tool with a single keyboard, shortcut can speed, so you just do Control C, I believe. That would be the shortcut to send something to the comparer, or just right click and send to comparer. Can speed things up considerably. I concur. Sequencer, we usually use Sequencer when assessing the randomness of tokens such as session cookie values or other supposedly random generated data. If the algorithm is not generating secure random values, then this could open up some devastating avenues for attack. Now, we're talking about the situation where you have an L3 application, and if you're looking to my other series on YouTube that I'm doing concurrently with this one here, the sequence when I go to the OWASP ASVS, so Open Application Security Verification, OWASP ASVS, Application Security Verification Standard. I'm doing another series on this one, and you know that we have L1, L2, and L3 types of verifications that we can do. And when you would be using Sequencer in an L3 situation, when you're dealing with a banking application, with a medical application, or with an application that deals with a lot of sensitive information. Now, in addition, so that would be for L3 when you're using the Sequencer. In addition to the myriad of inbuilt features, the Java codebase also makes it very easy to write extensions, which is why we have the amazing extender and the BAP store over here. These can be written in Java Python using the Jython interpreter, or Ruby using the JRuby interpreter. Now, the extender module can quickly and easily load extensions into frameworks. What are the ones that I have right now? I have the Burp Bounty, the bare bones one, the non-paid one, Asset Discovery, Active Scan. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say that I use these much, but I do use the JSON beautifier because it simplifies the output that I'm actually reviewing. Software Vulnerability Scanner, as you see, I don't even have it checked here or loaded. Collaborator Everywhere, in situations when I feel that there might be a potential SSRF or code execution thing in a certain header. I'm just loading this one up. JSON Web Tokens, it's usable, but I'd rather use jwt.io. GraphQL Radar is always on because I have a lot of web applications with, I'm doing a lot of pen testing on applications that have GraphQL instead of REST, or other API thingies in there, and the InQL, I'm loading it every now and then. So as you can see, the professional edition is much needed to someone who actually wants to get a lot of work and also wants to get a lot in their work, a lot done, be very efficient, and have everything all in one place instead of me just using VirtualBox, using a Linux environment, which is very incompatible with a lot of things that I have here in my Windows. Instead of me using my VPS, I use my VPS in a lot of situations, but not in penetration testing. If I do want to do a little bit of recon, if I want to do a little bit of automation when it comes to bug bounties, which I do very much less often nowadays, maybe maybe once or twice a month, but still I'm just looking at the targets that I have on Synac, and there are so many targets to test, and I wish I could spend more time in there. But I do have a lot of projects, a lot of penetration projects undergoing, so that's additional time, and I would rather spend additional time outside in the sun, walking, doing stuff, working out, than just spending more time in front of the computer, because money and satisfaction from money can get you just so funny how it all got to here. But money and satisfaction from money doesn't get me significant rewards after a certain point. So if I have sufficient money to satisfy all my requirements, my lifestyle requirements, which I would say are quite modest, I don't want to be a billionaire right now. That being said, which Burp Suite feature allows us to intercept requests between ourselves and the target? So the proxy, right? Which Burp tool would which tool would we use if we wanted to brute force a login form? So for that we use the intruder, and we'll definitely gonna do a hands-on in the future videos, or in the future videos, both are correct. Tasks 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 15 should be a really good more than introduction. I don't think this is gonna be an introduction, because even though I'm taking things right now as the script goes here from the zero to hero perspective, I'm gonna share my experience along the lines, and that's actually make it less of an introductory stuff, more like at least an intermediate level stuff. So I would not focus on explaining basic concepts here, but I would rather just speak to the professional. Which Burp tool? So we did that. We did submit. The answer is correct. So in the next video, we're gonna go through the installation, maybe the dashboard and the navigation. Maybe we're gonna do multiple of them in one video, because right now this is enough for the day. So let's see. Yeah, we have 13 minutes in, and this is where we conclude.